Any questions? Yes, Ms. Siren.
Does that still mean that we can discuss any particular paragraph in each particular article?
Absolutely. We're just taking the article out of order, and I'll let the planning board comment as to why they're looking to do this. Mr. Cole.
Thank you. If the use table regulations that we want to move to the last might require amendments if some earlier article doesn't pass. For example, with solar, there's some new definitions of small scale solar. If that didn't pass, and we didn't change our bylaws, then we don't want to have something in the use table that doesn't relate to the approved bylaw. So that we do it last, offer any amendments at that time if needed. That's all.
Yes, Ms. O'Hazy.
My question is that as it was posted on the town website, is that exactly the same as what was on?
That's not really the question that's before the meeting right now. The question is regarding, we're going to take up article number 2 last. So, but to answer the question, yes. All right, all those in favor, please let me know. All those opposed? Unanimous. So we're going to start with article number 1, and then we're going to go to article 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 will be last. All right, article number 1, Mr. Cole.
Mr. Moderator, I would like to move that the town adopt the article as printed in the warrant, and further that I move.
So let's handle that one first. There's a motion to adopt the article as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All right, now you may want to go ahead, Mr. Cole.
I would like to move that after
Motion by deleting its entirety after the word unit in the third line of 1.4 definitions. So in essence, so if the amendment passes, accessory apartment, a separate housekeeping unit complete with its own sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities that are substantially contained within the structure of a single-family dwelling, but this is a separate unit. And also, for the record, the words from substantial to unit should be in black. That's what it is already. So just for point clarification. Mr. Cole.
yes, we want to make clear here that people know what happened. We had no intended change to the definition of accessory apartment. This board's been working for close to 2 years on the bylaw revisions, and one of them that we were going to introduce was about accessory dwelling units. We didn't get so far as to include that in tonight's articles because we didn't finish it. We were waiting for the specific state requirements because they have come in and said you have to allow accessory dwelling units in certain cases. We've got some decisions to make about that and present to the town in the next round of bylaw considerations. So we did not intend to have anything in this document about accessory dwelling units. The legal KP law, when it came back, they had offered just as a suggestion, this is the new requirement for doing ADUs. And somehow in the preparation of the article, that suggested language was put into this article. It wasn't our intention, and furthermore, it wasn't the subject of the required hearing that we did hold here in February. So we couldn't do that anyway, and it doesn't belong in there, so we wanted to leave that one, to take that piece out so that there's no change in accessory apartment. And we will do the accessory dwelling units in accordance with the state. Next round.
Any other comments on the amendment?
Yeah, I have a clarification on this. Isn't this what town council recommended? Or not recommended, but told us we had to do this per state law, and DP law speaks up to this?
Do you wish to, Ms. Costanza? Or Bill, if you want to bring the email as well.
Sure.
My understanding was it was commentary that was within it, and it was put into the article.
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't there at this meeting when they approved of this, and so I'm asking for clarification because it was approved based on town council's comments, everything language.
Correct, with the understanding that they could amend it on the floor.
So there are some new requirements for accessory dwelling units. There is a definition under state law, state regulations. There was some litigation involving the state regulations. There are new state regulations that were recently promulgated, where the town does have the ability to go back and amend its zoning bylaws at another time. Just amending the definition of an accessory dwelling unit might not be something that you want to do without actually looking at the rest of your zoning bylaws and adjusting other provisions accordingly. You might have, other requirements, parking requirements, additional requirements that you might also want to amend your zoning bylaws for. So my understanding is that the planning board would like to look at that further before bringing it to town meeting and amending the definition and doing it in a piecemeal fashion. They'd rather look at it all at once, which in my opinion is just perfectly fine.
Thank you.
And any other, Mr. Cole?
I'd like to address that comment, please, because what the select board said was, what they approved, the night you weren't there, was to have in the articles what came back from legal review. And that's why it's here, because it didn't belong here. It was a kind of off-the-hand comment from legal saying, this is the new rule, but we weren't even talking about it. We're going to do that on its own, consistent with the recent state laws. So we were doing nothing about accessory dwelling, and that only appears in here because they offered a helpful comment that somehow got considered to be legal opinion. And so it's in there because that's what you approved, but it makes no sense, frankly, for it to be there. It deserves its own bylaw when the time comes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Ms. Sire.
I want clarification on daycare center. Okay, this is stating any facility as defined under or whatever, operated on a regular basis for nursery school, kindergarten. Daycare centers are also adult daycare centers. Does this mean that we under zoning will allow children's daycare centers but no adult daycare centers? Because it seems that that's what this is saying.
Thank you, Ms. Cole.
There are many things that were not addressed, some bylaws and some parts of things like this definition. Everything we changed was put into the proposed and then put into the hearing and then to the select board and then in these articles. What you're asking about with daycare center is a definition that is not being addressed or changed tonight. It's one that's been there for many years. It might be worthy of revisiting, but it's not available to make amendments on, to do anything like that, because it's not what's on the warrant. By the way, any amendments that come up tonight have to be, right, anything that has to be to make things less restrictive. You can't decide to make anything more restrictive without it having gone through a proper hearing process. And that's not on the floor.
And I just want to clarify, we're speaking about the amendment to delete verbiage in 1.4. They would have questions about the other things as we move along. Are there any other questions regarding the amendment as presented? Mrs. Smith.
So this goes to the point that Mr. Tinker was trying to make as far as being ready for this meeting, and already here, this is a mistake in this document that's been posted all this time.
Mm-hmm.
So there again, this just seems like it's being pushed through. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Ormaszewski.
Just a clarification, are you saying for 1.4 accessory apartment that after the first sentence, you want your suggestion that we remove the whole rest after the first sentence? Because unit shows up twice in that first sentence, so you need a second time when it shows up after that, you remove it.
As amended, the definition would read accessory apartment, a separate housekeeping unit complete with its own sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities that is substantially contained within the structure of a single-family dwelling, but functions as a separate unit. That is it. And what ended up happening this is how the sausage was made, unfortunately, when it was time for all the changes, et cetera, it ended up getting incorporated, so all of these reds and
I'm going down,
straight, so.
trying to understand what part you're coming on.
In essence, what this amendment does is keep it exactly as it is presently. Any other comments, new comments or questions on the amendment? If being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? All that are opposed? And in favor. Okay, so the main motion again is to adopt the article as printed. All verbiage after the word unit in the third line of 1.4 definitions is deleted. Are there any other comments regarding definitions? Yes, Ms. Brown.
I'm totally confused. What's going on?
All we did was cleaned up the 1.4. So if you have questions about any of the definitions in here, now is the time to bring them up.
Is that, well,
Any of it read.
does this include the kennel definitions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's what I was confused about. So, do you want me to read my motion?
Yes, please, if you have one.
I would move the town to remove the definition of kennel commercial breeder with the purpose of not allowing this type of kennel within the town.
May I have that, please? Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded, the town remove the definition of kennel commercial breeder with the purpose of not allowing this type of kennel within the town of Hardwick. And it has been seconded. Discussion. Mr. Paul.
Thank you. This is, I'd like to point out that this, notice what was in black, which is basically very little on this subject. So what would be going in now is more detailed, according to the state, the definition of the different types of kennels, including commercial breeding. But, so those definitions aren't something we're creating. If you are saying that something shouldn't be allowed in Hardwick, I'm going to suggest that would be, I believe, something that would be addressed in the use table rather than in the definitions. It could say this kind of thing is no across the board. However, I believe that when we get to that point at the end of these articles, we're going to see, if we see a motion then that says to make something more restrictive by saying it's not allowed here, it's going to be, I think, out of order because that zoning change has not gone through the required hearing process. So that's not here. Now that may be coming up later and we could talk about that, but let me also say, as I look at the commercial stuff, I know that people have concerns. Most of us would share, I think, about not wanting to have, the so-called puppy mills going on, right? So, where animals are bred, dogs and cats, and they're sent off wholesale at an early age and so forth. I've seen two decisions I saw recently. One is that the state has said agriculture, that dogs and cats, commercially bred like that, can be in an agricultural property parcel and are considered to be livestock. That was challenged, but that didn't get far in the legislature. So, first of all, it couldn't be banned in an agricultural parcel, which it would be.
This is prohibited in, I know this sounds far from Hardwick, it is prohibited in the city of Boston, prohibited in the city of Cambridge, and prohibited in the city of Springfield.
Yes.
And there is sweeping legislation across the country for this.
Ms. Costanza, would you be willing to comment regarding what Mr. Cole alluded to and the fact that these are the definitions and that the use, if there's, if we're trying to restrict something or to eliminate something, that the use table would be the proper area to do so.
Certainly, so the town does have a table of uses, I do understand that that is on the warrant tonight to be amended, and if you look at the table of uses, it's not, the warrant isn't numbered, but if you look under 3.2.4 business uses on the second page, you do have all types of kennels other than personal kennel on there, and you can see that, the different districts are listed on your table of uses, and they're either allowed a special permit by right or not allowed at all. You can see that there. And so the table of uses could potentially be amended to restrict certain types of uses that you otherwise define, to be clear that those uses are prohibited. That specific defined use is prohibited if you amend your table of uses.
That, what I'm getting at is probably is the fact that the definition explains what it is. And so if your intent is to not have that, and we get to the table of usage, then an amendment would be potentially along the lines of, I move that, amended kennels all types other than personal and commercial breeding. That would be the way to go about prohibiting it.
Say that again.
If you're looking to ban commercial breeding and present it to the town, you would do it in the usage table, not in the definition, because if you eliminate the definition, then it's going to be that much harder to ban it because we have to define what it is. So it's just a matter, so I'll give you another one. Absolutely.
It's quite true, a number of cities, a dozen or more now, have adopted local regulations to prohibit commercial breeding of the type you're talking about, except that they can't prohibit it in agricultural areas. That may be fine. I'm just saying that had this been raised at the hearing, for example, where we were all talking about this, and could still work on changes and get them into the warrant and consider them tonight, that would have been very valid. And I would suggest that this may be a good thing to add to our list of upcoming bylaw reviews and changes. But I don't think I heard an answer to the question that, what I said is that it seems to me that we can't, when we get to the use table, we can't say we want to restrict this now, because it hasn't been in a hearing. We haven't gone through. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I would suggest it be a new bylaw.
I'm going to, if a motion comes up to amend that line item, I will allow it. And it'll be up to the, if it passes, it would be up to the Attorney General to determine whether or not it requirements. So, as it stands right now, there's a motion to remove the definition, a motion to amend Article number 1, to remove the definition of kennel commercial breeder with the purpose of not allowing this type of kennel within the town of Hardwick. All those in favor of the amendment, please let me know. All those that are opposed? Raise your hands up, people. All right, motion is carried by the majority. It was defeated by the majority, so the amendment did not pass. Do I need to, and I'm not being sarcastic, do I need to speak this loud, or I want to make certain that everybody hears? Okay. All right. And if you can't hear, then you can rise for a point of privilege and say, I can't hear you. So again, I think I project, if you can't hear, just let me know and I'll make certain that everybody is heard.
Do you want a
We have any stands in the house. All right, so moving back to Article number 1, are there any other questions or comments? There being none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those that are in favor, please let me know. All those that are opposed, please let me know. Unanimous. Okay, so at this time, we're going to be on Article number 3.
Article number 3, use regulation.
To determine whether the town of Harwich will vote to amend section 4.0 special permit procedures and section 5.0 site plan approval for zoning bylaws adopted May 17, 2012, and amended June 16, 2018 to read as follows. Solutions are shown as strike-throughs, and additions or insertions are shown in bold and or colored as bold or taking other action relative thereto. Article 3, Mr. Comfort.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, move town adopt the article as printed in the warrant.
Second. Moved and seconded to adopt the article as printed in the warrant. Yes, go ahead again, Mr. Comfort.
Move to amend the main motion under 5.3 site plan review procedure, clause 6, the third and fourth line, by substituting the word receipt of the application with the words close of the public hearing. So the second on 5.3 site plan review procedure now reads, the planning board shall deliver a written decision to the building inspector and town clerk within 90 days from the close of the public hearing by the planning board.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendment.
Where are we?
What?
On 5.3, site plan review procedure. It's on the very bottom of the page.
Thank you.
When it passes, the second sentence will read, the planning board shall deliver its written decision to the building inspector and town clerk within 90 days of the close of the public hearing by the planning board. Everybody understand?
Right.
Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Comerford.
The reason why we're doing this is there was a typo and it says 25 days when you have a site plan review from the application to the end of the period unless it's continued. And in the publishing of it, it says 90 days from the application. And it should say from the close of the public hearing. So after the 45 days of the public hearing is closed, then there's 90 days for the planning board to write its decision. So by changing this, it means that we have the 90 days instead of only 45 days to make the decision, because the application starts the clock for the 45 days, and then after the public hearing is closed, the 90 days starts the clock again to write the decision by the planning board. So it was more of a typographic error than anything else.
Any other comments or discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. All those that are in favor, please let it be known. All those opposed?
What were we voting on?
I just read it.
I mean, were we just voting on
Just that amendment, just that amendment, just that change, just that amendment. So now, the entirety of Article 3 is before you. Okay, they changed the verbiage, so all 4.1, 4.2, all the way through 5.0 site plan review is up for discussion. Are there any other comments or questions from the meeting? There being none, I call the vote. Ms. Siren.
All right, first question, in 4.1, it says that the planning board asking of the special permit granting authority, and then it says planning board, but then they scratch out all the special permit granting authority. Okay, which one is it? Are we the special permit granting authority, or we at the?
So again, the article states deletions are shown with strike-throughs. So if there's a line through it, that means we're deleting.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is in 4.1, it says the planning board is acting as the special permit granting authority. But then it says planning board, and they're scratching out all the special permit granting authority. So if in 4.1, the planning board is acting as the special permit granting authority, but then in the rest of them, they're You know what I'm saying? Pick one or the other, but in the first.
So what happens, so the abbreviations, the SPGA is a way to identify the special permit granting authority repeatedly over and over again. So that's why you're seeing SPGA afterwards. The reference is special permit granting authority.
Right,
So
but I'm saying in 4.1, they're calling themselves the special permit granting authority. But then they strike.
that's what it is right now. They're acting as, the bylaw right now states they are the special permit granting authority. And they're changing the verbiage to the planning board.
Okay, but why are they still calling themselves a special permit granting authority in 4.1?
They're not.
Acting as a special.
She's talking about the first prefix before the rules. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not following this.
Yeah, well, I'm not following it either, that's what I'm saying.
But does everybody else understand the intent? Mr. Cole?
Thank you. The law requires that a town have a special permit granting authority. In Hardwick and many towns, it's the planning board. That's what's spelled out in 4.1. Thereafter, rather than have everything say, as it used to, the special permit granting authority every time, we thought it clearer if it said the planning board every time, without repeating it, acting as the SPG. It's just simplicity. It's not inconsistent, and I think as people look at this, they realize, oh yeah, it's the planning board, rather than say, who's the SPGA, who do we go to? There's no change in the process here.
Does that answer your question, Siren?
Maybe.
Ms. Gomes?
If there is just you failed to follow the planning board in 6.9.1 and just be,
We're not on that yet. We're not on that yet.
I know, but
But it's not a discussion right now. Ms. Judy, it's not, no, Judy, any other comments or questions regarding the
to
motion?
read the board.
Ms. Cole, stop. We will discuss it when it comes up, okay? It is not appropriate to bring it up right now. It's going to confuse everybody. Mr. Romashevsky.
I think the points that are being made here, that it would have been much simpler to define the planning board up above. Like you see a lot of times the contracts here known forward as the SPGA, they just left SPGA in the document.
Cole, you want to comment?
Maybe it would have been simpler. I'm going to suggest that we thought that this was clearer, and because it says we are the SPGA in Hardwick, then it says the planning board thereafter. That's pretty clear, I think, and it wouldn't have to change unless the town someday adopts a different special permit granting authority.
Is it clear as an attorney reading it? Can our attorney tell us, is that clear?
Ms. Costanzo, would you care to address the meeting?
Of course. So the special permit granting authority could be the select board, it could be the planning board. So this is just saying to make it clear that the special permit granting authority is going to be the planning board. If someone is looking at a particular section and not reading the full section of the bylaw in its entirety, you'll know that it's the planning board and you won't have to guess, well, who is the special permit granting authority? Going back to reading the first sentence, if you just turn at a specific subsection. It's my understanding that that was the intent of the planning board in making this amendment.
Well, I think cleaner the definition, if we could find SPGA the definition. Then it would have been there throughout the whole document.
Are there any other comments or discussion? Is it regarding the subjects within this article, Ms. Cohen?
It's regarding the abbreviations, which are anagrams, which are confusing, and also, it looks as though the planning board took it upon themselves to become the SPGA. And that could be stated as a separate item in the warrant.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody wish to, any other comments or
We didn't
questions?
take it upon ourselves. The town charter says, general bylaws, not sure, says this, in this town, the special permit granting authority is the planning board. It's been that way forever.
Okay.
But some people might look at this, as I think our attorney said, might look at this, say, what do I have to do if I want a special permit? Oh, I gotta go to the SPGA. And then it's just telling everybody the SPGA is the planning board. If ever that changes, when we become some big city or something, maybe we'll have to redo this in every one of these spots and just go back to the SPGA or say it's the select board of the zoning enforcement office or something. Excuse me.
Any other comments or discussions? Okay, the motion in front of the meeting is to adopt the article as printed in the warrant with the amendment that the second sentence, now under 5.3 site plan review, now reads, the planning board shall deliver its written decision to the building inspector and town clerk within 90 days of the close of the public hearing by the planning board. All those in favor, please let it be known. All those that are opposed? Unanimous. Article number 4.
Mr. Moderator, I move that we adopt Article number 4 as printed in the warrant. Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt Article 4 as printed in the warrant. I'll wait for everybody to get to that page. Okay, open it up for discussion. Mr. Smith.
I have questions about 692, use of trailers, self-contained motorhome. There's some numbers in here, 14 days at a time, 30 days in a row to be occupied. How did the board come about these numbers?
Sure. You'd have to ask someone from 2012 or something why that was put in there. That's not being changed, and it's not part of the article. Not those days. Only what's in red in regard to campers is what's being changed. I'll be happy when we get to that, or if you want any time to explain why that's there. But there's no change in the number that someone's allowed to stay in a camper, not on a camper. There's no change in that in this warrant.
I think it's just because we're doing 6.5, 6.8, 6.9 to list all of them to show what's there, and then obvious,
I got it. I thought these were new. I apologize.
No apology necessary. Are there any other comments or questions? Ms. Siren?
Can I make a motion to strike the 6 lots for the common driveway? It says that the
Under 6.52?
common driveway serving 2 to 6 lots.
Well, we're gonna have to put it in writing.
Is that?
So you're gonna write it as an amendment by either striking out or changing the number, or however it is that you want that first sentence to read. While I wait, Ms. Siren's motion, are there any other comments or questions?
Well, anticipating maybe a question or confusion possibly, the only change about in 669 self-contained motorhomes, etc., that we did make is in red, and that's where it says any such mobile home or manufactured home shall be removed within 30 days of the issuance of an occupancy permit for the new or rehabilitated dwelling. I'm going to tell you this, something in the old bylaws, probably from 12, said they acknowledge the state law, which is still in effect, that if somebody's home is damaged by destroyed by fire or natural disaster, then no board can say you're not allowed to stay in a camper or manufactured home for up to a year while that home is reconstructed. Okay, it just was telling all boards in the state, you can't restrict that. So our law past bylaw was consistent about that with that, but it had the sentence that's in here now we just want to put that sentence in the right place, because it looked before like if the board did grant a permit for 30 days, or for over 30 days for someone to stay in a camper, that they needed a certificate of occupancy from that, and they had to move the camper out. This sentence was in the wrong place, that's all. So now it's much clearer to anybody what's meant by that. So that's cleaning up a typographical error, I guess, from 2012 or something also.
All right, one moment. Okay, Ms. Siren has an amendment under 6.5.2 applicability to strike the words after the number 3, 2, 6, and the number 6 in parentheses. So that the sentence would read, the planning board may permit a common driveway serving 2 lots upon approval of a special permit and common driveway site plan. There is no second, so we will move on to further discussion. Mr. Wright.
Could you explain what? Could you explain yourself?
Yeah, Mr. Wright, it's not in front of the meeting, nobody seconded the motion. Sorry. That's okay. Ms. Cohen.
I was going to talk about, I have something to talk about, so never mind.
Okay. Any other comments or discussions? Mr. Rogoshevsky.
Just to be clear, I know that you're working hard on this. Are you allowing comments on that? 6.5.2 now?
You can certainly talk about 6.5.2 as it's printed in the warrant, absolutely.
And, okay, so the concern I would have with the 6 lots is, I think these things result in things that are sometimes called lots. I believe I'm correct from my experience with the Conservation Commission during my time with the Board of Health. This can complicate matters where people navigate around wetlands and force concentrated development on a common driveway, which can then be a real problem for a neighbor, because all of a sudden the neighbor who would have had plenty of space around them, normal lots, has, in this case, 6 houses now, maybe 20 feet off of their property line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which you would never see that coming. You would never expect that to happen. And I think that that's something that should be considered in allowing this type of common driveway development. You know, an extreme would be no common driveways, but I think the town's trying to be generous by allowing at least 2 houses in the way it's amended. But I think 6 and excess of 2 is now getting extreme, and it can allow development completely unforeseen by a neighbor and working around, wetlands that maybe is not desirable by the Conservation Commission. So I think it's a bad idea.
Does the planning board wish to comment on the deletion that was taken out after that?
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Let's understand this whole section, please. Realize that look at what the old bylaw was, okay? The old bylaw said you can have 2 to 3, and then you can have 4 to 6. And the 2 and 3 was just by right, or site plan review. So that was pretty easy to do. And the larger ones can still be done by special permit. There were a lot of concerns, and we shared a lot of those about some of the things you're talking about. So this actually puts it all in one category, and it's going to require special permits, a more intensive review than than that. So this is going in the direction of trying to avoid the sorts of abuses, if you will, that you were talking about, but still allow the sensible placement of a couple homes sharing a driveway, or even up to 6 sharing a driveway, which is what we allowed before, but if it's done right, it might be fine. So we're not taking away that possibility, but do a special permit.
I like the special permit idea, and I understand that, Bill. And I can't say that I can foretell the future, but I know the problems that have come already in town. One particular I'm thinking up on North and Flat Road. I just feel like to go to the special permit is a good idea, and thank you for explaining it the way you did. I think to go to 6 lots is excessive.
We're not going to 6, it's already up to 6.
I think
We're changing the requirements. If you read the full thing that we changed, including the strikeout, that was it, that's already part of our current bylaws. That is where it says up to 6.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes, just so people can understand, special permit is discretionary, meaning that when the planning board receives a special permit, we can deny it, or we can accept it. On a site plan review, pretty much you can't deny it. You can put conditions on it, but you can't put conditions that prohibit it from taking place. So the special permit is a discretionary, is a better way if we find that there's a lot of objections to the neighborhood. There are other situations such as you mentioned, wetlands, etc. Then we can deny that in the end if we feel that it isn't a good fit. But the site plan review, according to the courts in Massachusetts, is very hard to deny site plan review. So
I think the special permit is an excellent idea.
It's a better way to go to control it.
Mr. Benoit, did you still have a question?
I was on the second one.
Unfortunately, it's been removed from the meeting. So we can have a discussion, and if enough time passes, we can bring it up again. Mr. Fleming?
I'd like to clarify something. You're not going to, common driveways are allowed in town since 2012. Are you guys going to talk about this?
I'm going to listen.
Okay. So they're already in the bylaw. You'd have to have 6 separate lots. You're not going to have a house. They have to be, that driveway accesses 6 separate. If you got into compounds or open space subdivision or something like that, you're going to have a more closely dense homes. But in the common driveway scenario, you would have to have 6 separate lots that the common driveway would serve. So you're not going to have you're going to have houses close together like that.
So that situation is exactly happening on Flat Road in North right now.
No, those are separate lots.
Oh, no, they are separate lots, but they're on the common drive. They're 3 houses right next to it. They're right next to 20 feet off of the adjacent property. But basically, the adjacent property is destroyed.
Well, if that lot, if the setback requirements for the homes on those lots meets the zoning bylaws, those houses would be there anyway, if you got a driveway in. This actually prevents.
Hold on, I don't want back and forth. Let's just answer the question, and then I'm going to move on to the next.
This actually prevents multiple driveways on a road going to these separate lots under certain circumstances. A common driveway winds up being 1 entrance onto a road, as opposed to 6. So there are times when that would be attractive.
Ms. Siren, do you wish to resubmit your amendment?
Can I?
You can. That's why I'm asking.
May I?
Yes, it's received. Is there a second?
Yeah.
You second it? All right. So I'm going to read it again. Under 6.52, applicability, strike the words, quote, 2, 6, and the number 6 in parentheses, close quote.